Hello and welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. I'm a spirit navigator. I navigate between the worlds. It's a really freaky job that I signed up for. I had no idea. So anyway, today we're going to be talking politics, but before I talk politics, and let me also say I am barely holding on by a thin thread. I am channeling this message 60% spirit guides, 40% Susan, and I'm laughing because the spirit guides are chomping at the bit. They have things they want to tell you, but Susan had things she wants to tell you too. So is it schizophrenia? I don't think so, but it is interesting. So what I want to say just very quickly is housekeeping. It seems like I've had a couple of short videos. If you guys are not familiar, short videos on YouTube are 60 seconds long, 1 minute long. And it seems like I've done two recently where I've imbibed things, I've eaten or drank or whatever, things that prompted me to think about calling poison control, or maybe even spiritual poison control. The first one was when I was laying in my bed, sleeping soundly, really enjoying my rest when I was woken up by my spirit guides. You're just woken up. People ask, how does this happen? It happens different for every person, but in you have a dream and you wake up and you're like, what was that? And you can't go back to sleep. So I was woken up in that way. And I was really, uh, the way it happens for me is I feel compelled, like, oh, I want to go get a glass and write some things on the glass. I literally got a glass and I wrote with a Sharpie some things on the glass, like, whatever, love, peace. Don't fuck this up, Susan. I don't know what I wrote, but anyway, it was the eclipse, the lunar eclipse. Never in my life have I ever even made moon water. I should. I am a Cancer rising. The moon rules my entire world. Do I care? No. I'm like, who cares? But that night I cared. I cared deeply enough to get myself up at 4 a.m. and go outside barefoot and walk in the grass with some moon water, meaning some just spring water that I put in a glass and I put out with the lunar eclipse moon. Well, I thought, I listen to my spirit guides. Look at me. Look at me being a good student. Well, then I go on social media and this guy, and it's always a guy, isn't it? It's always a guy who's telling you you're going to die. Because if women tell you you're going to die, you might die because she's probably going to kill you. But men can say this flippantly. Women do not say this flippantly. Women say this with intent. Okay. FYI, note to men. So I see this post by this guy. It's like, oh, anybody that makes lunar eclipse moon water is hexing themselves. Okay. Wow. I was like, holy. The one time I listened to my spirit guides, I was probably listening to some freaking rando spirit that, that happened to sneak in through the open spiritual window. So, it caused me to feel some kind of way for a certain number of days, literally whole days went by. And then I did this short where I thought I had made spiritual poison. I didn't mean to. I really didn't. This is moon water. I've never made moon water, never wanted to make moon water, but I made moon water. Why did I make moon water? F if I know. So I'm just saying that I survived that. But then yesterday I had, a little bit of stressed out. I'm very sensitive. There's a lot going on in the world, plus a lot of environmental terrible things. My heart goes out to everybody that was hit by Helene. My heart goes out to everybody that's being hit by Milton. And just the world at large is just really going through some things, right? So I've been feeding my dog these cookies that I get at the grocery store. And even the checkout person said, are those for dogs? I said, yeah, but they smell so good. You guys, these cookies smell so good. You're like, smells like vanilla. I'm like, how could a dog treat smell so good? Am I okay? Sometimes I just want to check in and say, am I okay? So after a couple of purchases of these cookies, they had carob ones, which are chocolate for people who don't eat chocolate, like dogs. I couldn't help myself, you guys. I am a chocolate addict. So I tried one of these carob cookies that are dog cookies, and I made a short video about it. Stress eating? Not at all. Not at all. Me stress eat?
Never. Wouldn't happen. But the funny thing about this cookie is that, well, they're dog cookies, you guys.
And I'm just here to say, I am okay. I have survived spiritually hexing myself, and I've survived eating dog cookies. I still don't know if I'm okay, but here I am. So I think I am okay. So having said that, we're going to jump into politics. And I also want to say that um the spirit guides, I'm just warning y'all right now, okay? Because when I hand the microphone over to them, there's no telling what they're going to say. I can't make it any shorter. I can't make it any faster. I'm a Virgo sun, you guys. I would have charts. You guys would be looking at charts. I would have color coded charts and they would make sense and it would be very succinct. But no, the spirit guides get the microphone and they're like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah," because they don't get very oftentimes get a chance to talk to you. So when they do, they want to fit it all in one damn video. So here we go. I'm going to talk about I usually have a better sense of what I'm going to talk about, but I'm turning the microphone over to them. They want to say, this is their message. This has compelled me to do a video at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, they want to talk to you about America. I'm sorry, Europe and everybody else, but it actually applies to you too. Does it? See, this is me going, wait a minute, does it? Because Susan's like fact checking. They're like, never mind. It does. They said it. They said it does. It does apply. Okay, it applies to the world, but right now they're addressing the United States because the United States has this very unique system of a republic where we have a whole bunch of states that get to be sort of mini fiefdoms, is what the guys want to call them. But there's an overlord, which is the United States federal government. But the overlord, this is the language they're using, the head dude in charge, the head woman in charge, the overlord is it's tenuous. They just want to say it's a tenuous situation. Not, they don't mean like it's tenuous now. They mean it's baked in. This is the way it was designed. It was designed that yes, you have the parent, the overlord, the federal government, but you also have these states that have their own individual rights. Now, this was supposed to be, according to the spirit guides, checks and balances. So if you did get somebody in the United States presidency, like let's say 45, who then cooked the books to have Supreme Court justices that be on his side, that would cook the books to have more Republicans on his side because they already know the game, they know the rules. It's like, let's say the Republicans, and it's really the people who are in charge of the Republicans, okay? It's really the Federalist Society, the Heritage Foundation, and other foreign countries. It's really them. They're like, "Oh, the Constitution is the rules." So if we understand how to manipulate and exacerbate the loopholes in the Constitution, we can make this work for ourselves. And one of the ways we can do that is through the Electoral College, because we don't have to win the popular vote. We can run this bad boy with like 20% of the votes or whatever. We don't have to have these people's votes. Then we're going to gerrymander all of the districts. Therefore, making sure that the Electoral College, along with gerrymandering, is going to give us the keys to the kingdom. Okay? So here we are. This is where we are, right? We had a president that cooked the books, that fixes in, that put in these Supreme Court justices. We have the Electoral College, which does not represent the popular vote. We already know that with Hillary Clinton. We have a Supreme Court, which is on more than ever before in the history of the United States on one political side. We already got a preview of that movie. You know, again, the guides often refer to this whole thing as a bad movie. You got a preview of that movie with Gore, right? When the Supreme Court said, no, we think he lost, you know. So these courts, be they supreme or state, or state Supreme Courts, have put their finger on the scale. All this is to say is that the popular vote has been ignored. The people have been ignored. Okay. The point of this video, and I'm really going to try to keep this pretty short because there are other videos they want me to do, and we got things to talk about. There's a guy that's absconded literally to the UAE because Hunter Biden and Smartmatic is trying to sue him. So I'm going to talk about that in another video, so stay tuned. There's stuff going down, but I just want to give you the big picture. This is what they want to say right now. The big picture is we're too big to fail. And the very thing that the founders of this country created with these states is going to be the very thing that kind of keeps us from becoming an oligarchy. Yes, the states are part of the problem because this is where we're going in 2025, where the states say, we don't care about the federal government. We're about states' rights, and we're going to really lean into our individual rights. We're going to make ourselves again many fiefdoms. But the good news here, and it doesn't mean that we can advocate, it actually means we need to work harder within our states, even me in my red state. What it means is that there's too many people. The populace is too big. It hasn't, the populace has been disengaged. They didn't feel like they had a voice, and they didn't feel like it really mattered. You know, when you're in a red state and you keep pushing blue, blue, blue and nothing happens, you get really disenfranchised and you start feeling powerless. And then you give into that and you decide, when you live in a red state and everything you do doesn't work, meaning voting, and then the Republican states add more stress to your life. You can't take time off from work. I mean, you just find yourself in this doom loop, right? So this is kind of where we are. But the good news is that the public, the populace, with this change of energy that's happening in 2025, that's going to stay for 30 years. It's astrological. Look, it's true, it's real, you can look it up, it makes sense. But because a lot of us don't understand astrology and I read energy, what I read energetically ends up matching astrologically. So I don't have to tell you all the astrological, tidbits for you to understand this. I can just tell you the energy's changing really and truly, actually towards the end of November, but into December for the next 30 years. Okay. That energy is power to the people. There's some other things that go with it. Not energy is never all good or all bad. It just is. It does favor certain things. And in this case, it's going to favor power to the people. We're going to reverse the power dynamic from top down to bottom up. So if you think about that, you could think about Reagan with his trickle down economics, right? Well, now we are reversing that to trickle up. The people at the top will get their money last. Imagine that kind of sea change. Imagine how happy that's going to make corporations and certain politicians. Not very happy. And how do we get there? That's a huge change for the United States of America, but also a huge change for the world. This energy is affecting the whole world. It's not just affecting the United States. So how that all fits is you have all these states that are going to start, because you guys, Republicans, the Heritage Foundation, all these different groups, if you don't think they're employing psychics and astrologers, you would be wrong. They see this coming. That's why they did the power grab. That's why they launched this kind of attack on us, because they knew they needed to move the needle way over to the right. So when this energy changes and we move to the center, we might not even get to the center because we've gone so far to the right. Whereas if we stayed closer to the center and you move the power to the people, where we're gonna be Denmark, y'all. I'm gonna be eating cheese. That's all I can say. And I'm not talking about cheese. I'm talking about, what I'm talking about, the good cheese, the good cheese, not this American processed crap. Okay. So anyway, we're not going to be Denmark because these people have moved the needle all the way to the right. So we're going to be good to swing back to really the middle. But in the meantime, the media is going to be screaming about the liberal changes. But if you take history, they're always suggesting that we look at things in a historic perspective because it gives you that perspective, right? We actually are just going to be moving back to maybe the 70s. Whatever was happening, and this is what they're telling me, I don't know what it is. Maybe we all need to be Googling right now. What happened in the 70s? I think Roe v. Wade happened in the 70s for one thing, but whatever happened in the 70s, that's kind of what we're going to go back to. Is that liberal? Not really, no. Not really, no. But it will restore more basic human rights and put humans more in the front of the line instead of corporations in the front of the line. Okay. Now, from that, you can extrapolate a lot of things. Will we get rid of Citizens United? Will we expand the Supreme Court? All those things are in the offing because the energy is going to change. And therefore, people's uh, wishes, their VOTING, will also reflect that. Okay. Because as we get power, we want more power. So, yes, all these things will be on the chopping block. Or, I mean, that's what they said. But anyway, I was going to say, or being changed, but they said chopping block. I'm going to go with chopping block. So, let me talk just for a minute about states because it's interesting to me. The spirit guides told me just a second before I did this video that in a lot of ways it seems counterintuitive, right? But if it weren't for the states and specifically Georgia and specifically a Republican in charge saying to DJT, to 45, no, I'm not going to go find you some VOTESs. I'm not going to do that. If it wasn't for a state, a Republican one, we would be in a very different position right now. They're saying this to calm you down, I think, because we're too big to fail. And I think it's always important to understand if the spirit guides think they need to calm you down, whatever's going to happen to freak you out has not happened yet. My guides are typically 3 months, 6 months out energetically, but like a big wave of energy is coming. Initially, it might just be an increased wave on the shore. It doesn't seem like much. So you might see some of these things happening that are very, very minute, but the bigger energy is still coming. It's going to take a while for Kamala Harris to get in, for that whole shenanigans through the courts to play out, for her to really get her feet on the ground, so to speak. Also for Congress to get their feet on the ground. And then a lot of this is just dealing with the mess that was left over by the previous, fraternity party that trashed the place. Okay. So some of it is just getting things put back in order. Then we start doing these big changes. That's why I think this is in the future a little bit. And I think this is why they're trying to tell you in the immediate future, these states are going to cause problems. They're really going to, and we've talked about this before, but they're really going to, I don't know what that word is. I did this in the last video too. Like there's a word that they give me, but I then see the symbol, which is like, I use the same word buttress. I used the same word last time, buttress, right? Like have this stance of, we are states, we have states' rights, we're protected in the Constitution. We've never done this before, but we're going to do it now. Again, these people in the Heritage Foundation, I don't know why I keep picking on them, but and who's Liberty? Somebody Liberty. What they do is they employ very, very bright young minds, typically male, and they have them. And when I say employee, what I'm saying is they take legal scholars and they say, forget all that rat race of being an attorney. You want to be in our think tank. You're brilliant. We want you to do nothing but focus on the Constitution and focus on telling us where the vulnerabilities are. And they're showing me they even have these mock debates where they challenge each other to prove that this is really a gray area in the Constitution. The Constitution was written over 200 years ago. Of course, there's going to be gray areas. My God, it does not match where we are now at all. Of course, there's ways to throw up questions that then have to be answered by a court, which is staffed by people that you put in because you have the majority through the Electoral College, through the gerrymandering. So you see how all this fits together, right? You understand how they're trying to make the fix is in, okay? What they forgot about is humans. They forgot about us because they don't see us. They see us as something to be mitigated, to be pushed to the side and disempowered, really, to be disempowered. And that's how they do in gerrymandering. But what the guides want to tell you is the states can posture, the states can throw up, they can draw up so what they just showed me was, so again, like I'm getting sentences, words, and pictures and feelings all at the same time. It's a freaking psychic blizzard in my mind, and I'm trying to translate all this into human thoughts that represent what they're telling me. And so they showed me if you have right, if you have a castle with a moat around it, think of that as a state. And the drawbridge comes down across the moat. That's the interstate commerce, the interstate court, something when you do things together. And they're pulling up the drawbridge. They're saying, we don't want to work with the federal government. We have our own energy, our own thing going on. Now, this is where people get that energy of succession. This is why some people talk about, and there's astrology around succession. They're not going to succeed. Texas is not going to succeed. They are going to pull the drawbridge up and say, we don't need your help. We don't need your assistance. And we certainly don't want your opinions. So that is going to make it that's a showdown that's about to happen in the near future. We're talking about maybe even in the next 6 months. I just got September of next year. Something might be happening in September of next year that might be specifically more visible or more yeah, more reality based. Like this is energy and it becomes really reality you can't ignore at that time. So the game is okay, so this makes sense, right? So where these parties, be they countries, be they oligarchs, American oligarchs, or American conservatives or neoconservatives or whatever you want to call them, Project 2025 people, whatever it is, their game plan has been to, you know, de-energize humans through the electoral college and through gerrymandering. Um, make their little tiny groups of humans support their bigger picture. Okay, that's been their game plan. And their bigger picture has been Congress, the presidency, the Supreme Court, the federal courts, okay? And the states. That's their game plan. So now what they're realizing is because they're ahead of the game, okay? They employ people like me. They're ahead of the game. They're like, okay, that we're not going to win this way. We need to change our game plan. What that means is there's going to be changes on the Supreme Court. You remember what we talked about? It was way to the right. Now it's going to slide this way. Well, they can't have that. That's losing the game to them, right? So they see the slide coming and they know the slide is coming from the Supreme Court. It's coming from Congress. It's coming from the White House. They're losing that power. So what do? Re-centralize it into the states. Okay? So again, this succession energy of Texas saying, no, we're not going to participate in this federal law. Again, it goes to the border, right? So Texas said, no, the border's mine. I'm Texas. And the federal government said, no, the border is federal because it runs along many states. You can't do that. But Texas really did a showdown and said, no, we're not going to listen to you. And at that time, the spirit guides predicted correctly that it would fizzle, that it wouldn't end up being a big deal. But also in that energy was the potential for a showdown. There was a potential for the United States of America federal government having to go into a state and say, stand down, stand down, remove your little state army Get out of the way. We are the federal government. You guys, this is where we're going. They've taken the game plan and understood they're losing the presidency, they're losing the Congress, they're going to eventually lose the Supreme Court. Biden is, I don't know how many 200 federal judges that he's gotten approved. Things are slowly changing. It doesn't look like it, but things are slowly changing. They're ahead of this. They understand. They're not stuck in their own little echo chamber, except for on the media. In their war room, they get what's going on. They're honest with themselves. They know where they're losing. They know that they have to move and do things differently. So these red states are going to start bucking the federal government. This is what you're going to see. Okay. You've been forewarned. Forewarned is forearmed. Okay. So, and that's okay. You know, the whole point, the whole energy of this video is that that is okay. Yes, the states are going to act crazy. Yes, things might get worse. They may seem to get worse before they get better, because before we can replace the Supreme Court, we the people, before we can get Congress maybe chugging out laws, you're going to see the rise of the state. And it's going to look maybe worse than it is. But the guides would say, maybe this makes sense to some of y'all, but if you've ever tried to clean out your garage or clean out your car, clean out your closet, and you got to take everything out and it's in the room or it's out in the driveway and you're like, "Oh, for the love of God." You know, it's already been 3-4 hours. You know, you were like, "I need lunch and a nap." It looks worse. It's worse when you clean it out, because then you've got to go through the sorting process. Do I really want this? Do I really, why do I still have this? You know, and then invariably somebody walks in and says, "That's mine. I want to keep it, put it back in the garage." Right. So it's like a process, and it's really a pain. It's not easy. It's not quick. And sometimes you keep stuff you shouldn't keep. Right. And sometimes you give away stuff that a week later you really needed. But that's okay. It's a process. This is why the guides are telling you this. We're too big to fail. These states, even though, yes, there's really terrible bad actors, truly, we are in a crisis point. That there's no denying that. I'm not trying to say this is, you know, peace and light. I'm telling you that these changes are coming. And these states are going to do everything they can to try to make it hard on Kamala Harris, hard on the federal government. They're really going, but you know, the guides are saying it's redefining the Constitution. This is how you redefine it. Again, they use the analogy of pulling things out of the closet, and then there's a big mess and deciding, do I really need to keep these ice skates from 1989? Because I don't ice skate anymore. Why are they even here? Why am I keeping them? Is the same thing. Do we need to keep this law? Do we maybe need to change this? Do we need to dial this back? Do we need to dial this up? That's the analogy. That's why they're using this analogy of the closet, right? So the other thing that I will tell you is, so you have all these states too big to fail, too diverse to fail, too diverse. You know what they told me the other day, and some of you guys are really going to love this metaphor. Nobody puts, you know, the humans in the corner. You can't do it anymore. You're not going to take 50 or 60% of Texans that want something different and just stick us in the corner. That that energy sailed, honey. You had your opportunity. You had your 30 years. And now it's our turn. So how this is going to be even more exacerbated, and I love this actually, because Kamala Harris is dialed in, and so is Tim Walz. They're dialed into the people. They're dialed into, what can I do to help the people? And she's going to continuously talk about it. She's going to get in, she's going to message better than the Democrats ever have. So she's going to constantly be getting this message out. What has your state done for you? She's going to call them out on it. Well, guess what? The federal government wants to help you. I'm sorry you live in Texas. If your governor would allow you to have this aid, we've made it available for you. You know, the guides talked about this in the last video. This is how she's going to go to war with them. Yeah, states can pull up the drawbridge. They sure can. But I'm in the castle. And I'm here with 50 or 60% of the whole populace who want, maybe even 70 or 80% of the whole populace who actually wants that good stuff from the federal government. So guess what? We are going to go over there and lower the drawbridge and say, yeah, bring it in. We want that. We don't want this. So even though the states are going to make a play for power, and they're going to get away with it, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Don't become sad or depressed or despondent or disenfranchised, because that's what they want. That's how they've kept us, too busy to VOTE, too busy to be concerned. They make it all so complicated. You go to VOTE and there's 20 pages of people you got to vote for, and you don't even know. That's like studying for an exam. They make it complicated. Okay. So, what the reason I'm doing this video is it's not going to work. It's not going to work. There's more of us than there are of them. Yeah, it's going to be dicey. Yes, things are going to happen. It's going to look like we've lost something. It's going to look like the Supreme Court did some ruling that's the end of the world, right? Like, you're going to hear all these media people, it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. They made a play, we make a play. They made a play, we make a play. I maintain that our players are for us, and our players are going to win this thing, are going to change the dynamic, the fabric of the United States of America. And in the end, towards the end of our 30 years, we're going to have a very different Constitution. This is our opportunity. We get to be in the driver's seat. So, really, instead of being despondent or depressed or sad or just exhausted, take your break. I often said this after January, take a nice long break. But then we all have to get busy again, because the states, the power brokers that are not the states, but that control the states, the red states, they're not going to take too much of a break. They're always, just because the monster runs off into the woods doesn't mean there's not going to be another sequel. The monster, if you didn't see the monster, really, really get put out, there's going to be a sequel. There's always going to be a sequel, because this is our role here. And instead of feeling like that's, Susan, I can't do it again. I can't do it again. You can, because you have to, because you're breathing air and you're a human. Don't think of it as saving the world. Don't think of it as saving the United States of America. It's not that. It's your city council, your school board, your police department. That's where it matters. It's small. And even more important than that, it's you. Even if you say, and I live this, right? Like, if I get involved in my city council, I end up getting threats. I get bad things. I mean, this is intimidation. This is terrorism. I get it. I live in that place. So don't tell me, Susan, you understand. Honey, I understand. Okay. But the other thing you can do is simply take care of you. Keep your energy bright as much as you can. The guides always say our energy is like a piano or a guitar or any instrument. You can play one note all you want, or you can play all of the notes, the dark ones, the medium ones, the high ones. Humans are here to experience all the whole range of musical notes, because when you listen to a song, would you listen to a song that's one note, high note, like ding, 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 ding? No, you're not going to listen to a high note over and over again. A song that's interesting and catchy, is complex, has the low notes and the high notes and the middle notes. That's us. That's humans. Don't be afraid of the dark times. Just go through them faster. Don't get stuck in them. Don't let them overwhelm you. When you're in the dark times, take really good care of yourself. Love yourself. Tell yourself it's going to be okay. Tell yourself, I'm going to be okay. Don't eat dog cookies. Don't do that. But in my own defense, they tasted good. But just tell yourself it's going to be okay. Don't believe this media that says it's over. Humans are stupid. You're dumb for living in a red state. You're dumb because you didn't evacuate from this. You deserve that. Don't listen to that BS. Because you know what? We're all in this together. Period. End of story. All of us. Okay? Take really, really good care of yourself. That's how we jump on this bandwagon of this new energy of power to the people. Power to the people is take care of yourself. If you can't get involved in your local, community politically, if everybody in that community started taking care of themselves, the next step would be that you volunteer at the animal shelter, or you volunteer at the food bank, or you volunteer to teach people to read because you feel so good and you want to share that with others. And then all of a sudden, you've got a whole bunch of people who are doing good things for the community. And then pretty soon, those people that are doing good things for the community feel so good about the community, and the community feels so good about itself that they start electing people that have a positive attitude, that want good things for their community. You guys, this is how you do it. This is power to the people. This is from the bottom up. That's how we're going to get through this. So start with you. Okay? I'm going to end this video here. I hope it was helpful. Please leave me comments down below. If you have any ratings for the spirit guide, go ahead and put those in too, because I think they're due for some sort of work, evaluation. I think we need an evaluation, because I think that if they had told me not to eat chocolate, I could have been eating chocolate instead of being drawn to the carob and the dog cookie. I'm just saying. Okay. Take really, really good care, you guys. I'll see you guys really soon with some more videos. Okay. For entertainment purposes only.